evening, everyone. Good evening. Wow, this is just absolutely amazing and heartwarming to be here and see all of you here today. Please first give it up for our MC. I can hear his chants all the way in the back. I'd like to say thank you to Bishop Williams, Mayor Grimel, who has been a long friend of mine in the fight. But I want to say first, again, thank you to my family. Without my family, I would not be here today. I have a very big family who are just simply amazing. My wonderful father, Fred Durhal Jr., who has left an indelible imprint of what public service truly means. Walking in his footsteps in a path that he has laid has just been an amazing journey, and thank you for all your service and all you have ever done for me and the rest of our people. Thank you to my beautiful mother who is here today. Who, as she was raising us with my father, instilled strength and courage in us, a sense of humility, and a care for people, who instilled that we were no better than anyone else, but we should be the best that we can possibly be. So thank you. Many of my family in the crowd is a huge family. I see my Aunt Andrea here, who has been there for me, as well as so many of my aunties. As they say, I have an auntie team. But I am most grateful and thankful to my amazing, beautiful, intelligent wife. I left out the word patient because that is exactly what it takes to deal with public service. Public service is a sacrifice that I've seen firsthand as a child, and now my wife and my children witness that as we go to work every day. Shout out to my beautiful, amazing children, my daughter Zola, Mustard, as you may have heard. And the next mayor in the next 40 years, Fred Durhal IV. But also thank you to all our community leaders. You make it possible for me to do what I do every single day. And I do it for you. You do not get paid to do what you do. Yet you still attend block clubs, you still participate in neighborhood cleanups, you still pick up rakes, you still pick up shovels, you still shovel snow, you still drive around in your car ensuring that our neighborhoods are safe. Thank you all for everything that you do to make Detroit such a great place. So thank you. So as often that happens with things like this, folks prepare words that they are going to say. I am truly one that loves to speak from my heart. There are no teleprompters here. There are no binders, there are no folders, there are no words written down, but words straight from the heart that I know I truly believe. I live in Detroit, work in Detroit, and I work for Detroit. And this is a city that I love, and a city that I know you love too, because you dedicate your time, you dedicate your energy and your focus in improving our city. But this is also a city that folks moved to hundreds of years ago, and folks have continued to move here hundreds of years later. They moved to these shores for opportunity. They moved to this city, some for the promise of a job where they can make a decent living wage so they can build families and move our city forward. This is the same city that put the world on wheels. This is the same city that manufactured many of the items that you see today. This is a city of strength. This is a city of grit. We know a lot about that word lately. But this is a city of, I believe, some of the most amazing people in the entire world. But what we want to talk about today, specifically, is Detroit's promise. That was the promise that allowed a young man who lived in Macon, Georgia, before 1950, to move here after he met a beautiful young woman from Youngstown, Ohio, and build a family of 12. He was a railroad worker and a union steward. And she was a PTA president, a block club president, and just an amazing community leader. The type of promise that sparked a young man to move from Tennessee here to the city of Detroit and meet a beautiful young lady from Holly, Michigan, and marry her, and they started a family of 12. He worked as someone at the Salvation Army, helping our most needy, helping our homeless. She served as a volunteer coordinator and eventually retired from the state of Michigan. These are people who moved here for the promise of building a better life, not only for themselves, but for their family. That is my foundation, those folks who moved here for that promise. But as we talk about that promise, really, what does that mean for us as we stand here today? We would all agree that the city of Detroit has come a very, very long way. But many of us know, as we live here, this city has a very long way to go. We have a very long way to go as we talk about continuing and restoring the promise of our city that allowed my grandparents that I just mentioned to move here and build a family right here in the city of Detroit. We have a long way of restoring the promise to our community that we will keep it safe, not just now, but for generations to come. We have a long way of restoring that promise to ensure that we keep building. But as we build, we ensure that everyone is included and can go to those buildings and live in those buildings and work in those buildings. We have a long way to keep our promise to our residents. And what is that going to take? That's going to take each and every one of us in this room, but it's going to take strong leadership. Not leadership that speaks rhetoric. Not leadership that speaks words, but leadership that backs those words with actions. Thank you, I appreciate that. I've been blessed to serve under some amazing leaders, be at the footsteps, not only my father, but amazing leaders in their presence, such as John Conyers, the Mayor Coleman Young. I remember being a little boy. This is actually kind of surreal for me. I remember my dad being an assistant to Mayor Coleman Young, and I would run through the Coleman and Young Municipal Building, the same building I work in today as a member of the Detroit City Council. The same building that now my children run up and down the hallway and take over my desk, and often remind me that all I do is blah, 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 blah. But in all seriousness, that leadership to move this city forward has to be visionary. It has to be okay with making decisions that are tough, making decisions that are not popular,
Right.
making decisions that sometimes everyone won't like.
Right.
Many folks in this room, and particularly if they're my constituents, they know we can make decisions sometimes they may not like, but we make it with our heart and we make it with our mind, the best information possible. But make those decisions because we truly believe we will move this city forward. So, as we stand here today, and to give you a little bit about myself and what type of leader I am a leader that is very focused on issues that will make your life better every single day. And whether that's being on city council now or prior to serving in the state legislature, where I co-sponsored legislation to ensure equal pay for equal work for women. Or co-sponsoring legislation that bans the box to give folks a second chance who have been convicted of a felony or a misdemeanor, because everybody deserves a second chance and should not be discriminated against. Or whether that was pushing forth legislation to end the driver responsibility fee here in the state of Michigan. Or whether it's serving on appropriations and ensuring that Detroit got the dollars they needed through bankruptcy to ensure that we can continue to build the Detroit that you see today. I remember being in those times during the legislature, a lot of tough decisions. We served in the minority, no secret. I am a Democrat. I was a former assistant Democratic leader under Democratic leader Tim Grimal at the time. There is a nonpartisan office for those who are listening. But I am a Democrat. I was born a Democrat. I'll die a Democrat unless something tragic has happened to you. But in all seriousness, those were some very tough times here in our state with a lot of very tough decisions that had to be made. We used to fight cuts when folks wanted to cut funding coming here to the city of Detroit in the form of revenue sharing. And we delivered still without one cut in revenue sharing, even as I sat as the ranking Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, because we learned how to work across the aisle and convince those folks that our residents deserve what every other community has. Or whether that was saving vital programs for our youth, like the DAPSEP program, Detroit Area Pre-College Engineering Program, which I am an alumni of, that fosters STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to help move our children forward. Or whether that was saving the Flip the Script program by Goodwill Industries that helps to eliminate the pipeline to prison. We have been there every single day fighting for the city of Detroit, again, whether it's on the state level or the city level. But often now the question is, where do we go from now? We are in an interesting, pivotal point in Detroit's history. I would be remiss if I did not thank Mayor Duggan for his leadership, for his partnership while I served in Lansing and now on the Detroit City Council to help build the Detroit you see. But I know, again, we can go to higher heights to keep that promise that we have spoken about. See, we have worked to make Detroit safer here. We have some of the lowest homicide rates in over 30 years. Fatal shootings and non-fatal shootings are down. But yet, we have more to do. Auto theft is still a problem here in the city of Detroit. You should not fear when you wake up in the morning walking out of your house or your apartment and wondering if your car still will be there. We have to focus on eliminating auto theft in the city of Detroit. We also have to focus on putting more funding into the programs that have helped us drop these homicide rates and these shooting rates, like community violence intervention, the Shot Stoppers program, which has proven to be useful and help us deter, stop the shootings, and lower the homicide rates. But we also have to be visionary in thinking. We need an Office of Violence Prevention here in the city of Detroit that will start addressing the social determinants of health that lead to gun violence, that lead to crime. We cannot just afford now to address the plague. We have to address the symptom and the plague. We want to address both together. And so when we talk about public safety, we have to keep pouring into our officers. I am glad that on City Council we were able to support one of the largest raises for our police department here in the city of Detroit in over 40 years. And this has helped to stop the attrition here in the city of Detroit. At once we were losing 40, 50 officers a month, and now everyone is coming back to the city of Detroit. We have new recruits, we're graduating new officers each and every day. We're fixing our public safety, but we've got to stay the course. We've got to stay the course. When we talk about development, which is generally on everybody's tongue as we talk about Detroit. Folks try to create the narrative of a downtown versus the neighborhoods. And if you know me well enough, I'll tell you we need both here in the city of Detroit. I often share a same thought with one of my great community leaders, Ms. Marilyn Winfrey. We talk about this all the time, the importance of development. When you travel to Nevada, you don't travel to Nevada to go to Reno. When you travel to Georgia, you don't travel to Georgia to go to Macon, even though my grandfather was born there. When you travel to Illinois, you don't go there to go to Peoria, you go there to go to Chicago. And we want folks that when you travel to Michigan, the first place you stop is the city of Detroit. And I'm unapologetic about development, I will tell you that. Because we need to continue to build the development that helps us build the jobs and build our tax base here so we can put that money back into our neighborhoods. Put that money back into our communities. Put that money into the pockets of our residents so they can go back to their communities and pay their rent and pay their mortgages. That's why we have to continue to build here in the city of Detroit. The opportunity, providing that opportunity, but also eliminating something that's important, the apathy that has existed in the city for so many years, the loss of hope, the loss of faith, where children who walk outside of their homes every day had to see decay of our neighborhoods. They had to see abandonment of commercial corridors and structures. And that became a part of their psyche, to the point where they're walking past abandonment. The average, and I'll give you a little story. This is the average day of one of our young people. Sometimes when they leave the house, they walk out of the house. A lot of yellow school buses don't pick them up right in front of the house like the suburbs. They walk to a public bus stop. And on the way there, we're hoping that they're not walking by an abandoned structure. We're hoping that they're not walking by someone who is trying to influence them into a different way of life. They get on that bus, they ride that bus to their schools, because we've got to do a better job of ensuring how we build schools in our neighborhoods. We've lost a lot of schools here in the city of Detroit. But they go to school and think about all they've seen before they got there, and now it's time to sit down and learn. Imagine that. Those are the folks that I'm fighting for. to change that stigma of Detroit, but to change the mindset, to eliminate the apathy that exists. That apathy is an interesting thing. It's the type of apathy that when we do something we're supposed to do, sometimes we're excited, or when government does something they're supposed to do, sometimes our residents get excited. For example, if we turn the street lights on, folks get excited. If we're picking the trash up on time, folks get excited. If the police are coming on time when you call, folks get excited. But we're going to change the narrative here. The narrative and the standard that we set is, guess what? That's what your government is supposed to do for you. And again, the current administration has come a long way of restoring that hope. But we're going to carry that torch forward to our folks who have stuck and stayed here in the city of Detroit when everyone asked who was going to be the last person to turn the lights out. That when you went to other communities and you say, hey, I'm from Detroit, they're like, what? Where? From Detroit? Is it safe? We're going to continue to change that narrative and say, yes, it is safe. We're going to say that with confidence. We also need to work on something to become a world-class city that may not be as popular to talk about, but transportation. In order to become a world-class city, we have to have a world-class transit system. And again, this is not just the buses running on time. This is not just the buses being clean. And remember, that's what your government is supposed to do. But this is transportation that takes us into the future. This is transportation where we have more bus shelters, but we also look at autonomous vehicles and energy-efficient buses that come down our streets to keep our environment safe. But it's also about connecting our communities with regional transit. We have to connect our communities, and now is the time that each community cannot fear one another. I had the opportunity to spend time recently with County Executive Hackle and County Executive Coulter from Macomb County and Oakland County respectively about how we can push transit forward, as well as our most amazing County Executive Warren Evans, who has always been an advocate for transit here. And these are the type of decisions that we are looking to move forward, and not just high-speed rail. I know we all see the M1 rail goes 3 miles up, 3 miles back. And shout out to the folks who helped make that a reality. And the reason they did that was to spark that thought of what Detroit can be in the future for transportation. But we've got to do that for a couple other reasons. When I grew up, and I was about 14, 15. All I wanted to do was drive. Having a car to me represented freedom. You got your driver's license, I could go wherever I wanted to go. Maybe go see a young lady I wanted to see. This is prior to my wife, I must put that on the record. Way before you, beautiful, way before you. In fact, I'm not. I don't know if you were even born yet, but you don't know this. But in all seriousness, that was things that excited us. That we could get in the car and we can go. And by the way, we're the Motor City. We wanted to do that. But young folks of today really don't like to drive. And when we talk to them and have these conversations with them, one of the things that they speak about is, well, what's going on with our transit system? And that is why we're losing our young folks here in the city of Detroit and the state of Michigan to other major metropolitan cities that have good working transit, where they can get up and they don't have to sit in traffic, but they can hop in transit that'll get them to work quick, fast, and it'd be efficient. That's what it's going to take to continue to build the city of tomorrow. On Detroit City Council, and you heard about my experience from the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, I have been very focused on affordable housing. So focused, in fact, that I sponsored an ordinance called the Pilot Fast Track Ordinance. It passed council unanimously 8-0. And what this ordinance does is help streamline the process so Detroit can provide incentives for developers so we can build close to 1,400 new affordable units here in the city each year. But providing those incentives is just not enough, because we know when we provide those incentives sometimes, at the end of what they call the abatement cliff, when the incentive is over, we sometimes see rents rise. We sometimes see those affordable rents go to market rate. Sometimes that forces displacement. So what we did with this ordinance, we ensured that every developer that got it, we locked them into 15 years of affordability and gave them an option to renew it for another 15 years. But here's the kicker. We also know we want our folks to live in clean, safe units. We also required them to maintain 15 years of compliance. So if you're listening to us, you must be compliant. The time for slumlords, the time for not treating your tenants right is done here in the city of Detroit. But to take us in the future, we're going to focus more on just renting. That's not how you build neighborhoods. Renting is good if you choose to rent. And we've got to create an environment where if you want to rent, it's not too expensive to do that. We've got to continue to work on that. But the path to repopulating our neighborhoods is a path to home ownership here in the city of Detroit. That will involve financial literacy. That will involve ensuring that folks who do rent and who want to become homeowners can find that path. We've got to improve our Detroit Housing Commission, which, by the way, they do a great job. But we've got to ensure those resources are getting to all of our residents so they know how they can build a home for their family that they can afford to live in. That helps create generational wealth. My team, as we talked earlier, I promised I wouldn't stray too away talking about generational wealth. But I think it's a really important subject here in the city of Detroit. Generational wealth just doesn't involve making money or putting money in the bank. It involves owning land. Which was another promise that I won't mention of what it was called years ago. But it's about owning land here in the city of Detroit. So we've got to create that path and push so our residents can get in homes, repopulate our neighborhoods, and clean, safe neighborhoods. Finally, one of the things that I want to talk to you tonight that we often don't talk about here in the city of Detroit is our youth. Being a father of two, and then particularly a father of a young black man, future young black man here in the city of Detroit, I often wonder what this city will look like for my kids. Folks have asked why I'm running for mayor of the city of Detroit. It's not just experience, it's not just the love for my city, but it's building a brighter future for our youth, your youth and my children. We were very pointed when we chose this location today, because this is an amazing location right here at the Boys and Girls Club that is starting to spark those bright minds of the future, whether it's in the Big Shine studio, or whether it's fashion and art design, or whether it's sports, or whether it's e-gaming. They are connected to connecting our youth to their futures. But they're a nonprofit. The city of Detroit is a government, and we have to be equally invested in our youth. What does this involve? This involves working to eliminate the pipeline to prison. This involves building relationships as well. For those who are listening or the press, no, I do not want to control Detroit Public Schools. But what I want to do is fix the broken partnership that we have between city government and our school system. What I want to do is to continue to build a bridge because we are all in this together. It is no secret that on the pipeline to prison, that most folks that come in contact with our criminal justice system don't read higher than a 3rd grade reading level. It is no secret that that lack of opportunity leads to an opportunity of something else that is not productive. It's no secret here in the city of Detroit, we have lost many of our after-school programs. We're missing the mark on our children. You heard me talk about the Detroit Promise, and part of the Detroit Promise is the actual Detroit Promise. We have a program here in the city of Detroit called the Detroit Promise, where if our children graduate with a 2.5 grade point average, they can go to a 4-year college and university. But many folks don't know about it. We got to connect the dots for our youth. My grandmother, who I quote often, used to say, keep both hands busy to stay out of trouble. And the idle mind is the devil's workshop. If we're not building opportunity for our kids and broadening their minds, somebody else will do it for them. So we will focus on our youth. And one of the things that we will do is to continue to push for a youth commission here in the city of Detroit in partnership with the Detroit Public Schools, where we continue to build the pipeline to success, the pipeline that leads to colleges and careers and not cages and caskets. Those are a few of our plans. But here's the thing. It's going to take hard work. These plans become greater in detail. I'm not going to keep you here an hour and tell you all the plans that I have. As promised me I could. Most folks who are in my district know that at our coffee hour when we talk. But what I can say is it'll take hard work. It'll take dedication. And what you get from me is a public servant who is hardworking, who is dedicated, who loves our community, who loves our people. What you get from me is someone who is not scared to listen to our people, who is someone that remembers those lessons my mother and my father instilled in me, that the only person that I'm better than is the person that I used to be.
All right.
The same lessons that I learned from my grandparents, particularly one of my grandmothers who used to feed 12 children with one pot of spaghetti. Me finding resources so we can fill and feed our entire community, but have everybody have their own pots of spaghetti. You'll hear on this campaign folks talk a lot of things that they've done that are commendable. A lot of us as elected officials, you'll see us, we give out turkeys, we give out hats, we give out coats, we do all of these great things. I'm telling you here today, the type of city that I want to build is one that we don't have to give out those turkeys, that everybody can buy their own turkeys, that every parent can afford to buy their own child a coat, that everybody can have the opportunity, and that we deliver the promise of Detroit that we have promised folks from generation to generation, and that we actually deliver on that process. And if you know anything else about me. One thing you can be sure of is that Durhal delivers. We are going to continue to fix our neighborhoods. We are going to continue to grow our commercial corridors that help and foster small businesses here in the city of Detroit. We are going to continue to connect our youth to programs that are keeping them safe, that are not sending them to jail and prisons. We are going to continue the path that we are on to grow this city for generations to come, so everybody can be proud and say that I live in the city of Detroit. It is the greatest city in the world, and that it will continue to be the greatest city in the world. And with all of you, all of your help, if all of us come together, there is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, that this city cannot accomplish. God bless you. I love each and every one of you. And God bless the city of Detroit.